Reform meltdown. Reform UK seems to be in meltdown over the tidal wave of Restore Britain supporters and acolytes and activists that have descended on Makerfield up in the north of England since the by-election has been called. And I can understand the fear, and I can understand why they're behaving this way, but it is unedifying, and I do expect better from anybody in the public sphere to maintain a sense of decorum and, I don't know, keep it edifying. I don't like shows on any side of politics that are unedifying and unbecoming of a role in public life. I really don't like it. I'm going to get into a few bits and pieces, but the turnout for Restore Britain in terms of footfall in people campaigning up in the north has been remarkable. I'm very impressed and I'm very heartened by it, and it's encouraging. I want to mention a few things that I've mentioned before. This is not an attack on Reform UK activists or voters or grassroots supporters. I've seen some attacks by people that really should know better from Restore Britain attacking grassroots and ground level activists. And we can't be doing things like that, in my view, because there's a chance of escalation. Especially if we're going around recording people in Restore Britain garb and asking Reform UK activists or supporters why they're voting Reform UK and putting them on the spot. And not just Reform UK voters or activists, but also Labour activists as well. Yes, there are still a few of them around. Because it can come across the wrong way, and people can turn violent, and we need to make sure that this doesn't happen, because we don't want this association for Restore Britain. These are just my comments on what I've seen online over the past few days. Now we're going to get into this. This is a poll that's been going around that's been trumpeted by the legacy media and Reform UK. And this is what they're using to say don't split the vote. First of all, vote for whoever you want to vote for. There's no such thing as vote splitting. Nobody is entitled to my vote. Nobody's entitled to your vote. Vote for whoever one you want. You should have the choice of the candidate who you want to support. This is the poll. Andy Burnham 43%, Robert Keenan 40%, Restore Britain 7%. This poll was commissioned by the Times. I think it was Survation, but the sample size was just over 300 people. You can't really garner anything from that. You really can't. And then you got this article from Farage in the Telegraph saying that Elon Musk backing Restore Britain in the Makerfield by-election is going to split the votes. Yet again, splitting the votes. This presumes there's a finite amount of right-leaning people and everyone gets a piece of the pie. This is the problem of politics in the United Kingdom, but this is also the problem with the economy. There's the mindset in the legacy media, and politicians have this mindset as well. There's a fixed amount of voters or there's a fixed amount of money in the economy. And they're not talking about generating new money, just taxing old money. Look at Andy Burnham. He wants to tax landowners more on their land, which is about taxing land that's already been taxed essentially. It's not about generating new wealth. And when you talk about vote splitting or you're going to split the vote, this is exactly the same type of mentality. You're not talking about reaching out to the disengaged voter, somebody who's not inclined to vote, somebody who's never voted before. You're talking about splitting up the votes that are already there, that are being used by people actively voting, and actually saying, right, that's what we need to focus on. That's not going to help anyone. And if you look at the way that Restore Britain was running their Great Yarmouth campaign, for Great Yarmouth First, they were very much doing that. They were engaging with the disenfranchised voter, the person not inclined to vote, the neglected voter, the people up in the north that would have been told by their family for generations to vote Labour, because if you don't vote Labour, you're going to let the Tories in. The person that's never voted before, these are the people that Restore Britain would be targeting. If you look at the last general election, for example, there's about 59% of the people that voted. That means 41% didn't even bother. That's enough to win any general election outright. That's enough to win any constituency in the United Kingdom. If you look at the votes, usually apathy is the biggest winner across the entire country, those who don't bother to vote. Now, Andrew Bridgen, a former Conservative, is actually making this point, and I'm going to play this clip now.
You say you've got so far. Obviously, you've got to factor in there is going to be more serious competition here.
Well, there is more serious competition. It's going to be a hard-fought by-election, but you've got to remember that this is a constituency where the demographics suit Restore, but also it's a constituency where 49% of the people didn't vote. So they've found all the existing parties unattractive. I think Restore's the only party that can possibly, try and get the votes of all of the potential electorate.
So when
It's a matter is getting 10 or 15% of the non-voters out to vote for Restore, and then Restore win.
So it's not necessarily about splitting the vote, because that's been the accusation.
It's always there. How can you be splitting the vote when already almost very nearly half of all the potential voters are turned off with all the parties? You could win an election in this country without taking votes of any political party, just by getting the disillusioned, the increasing number of voters who are disillusioned, and I completely understand why, with mainstream politics, getting them back out to vote for something new. And Restore Britain is that something new.
So this is the thing. I became disillusioned with Reform UK. The straw that broke my particular back was when they said they weren't going to get rid of any of the Tony Blair institutions that were brought in under his rule between 1997 and 2010, him and Gordon Brown. They weren't going to reverse devolution. They weren't going to get rid of the Supreme Court. They're not going to get rid of Ofcom. And they're not going to get rid of the OBR, which actually tells the Chancellor what to do. That was a Blairite reform that was actually formalised under the Cameron-Clegg Lib Dem Tory coalition. They're not committed to removing any of these things. And this is why I wouldn't say abandon, because I'm still sympathetic to many of the aims of reform and their grassroots. But they're not committed to any of this. If they're not committed to bringing us back to a pre-1997 state at the very least, then what are we even doing with our lives? That's what you need to ask yourself. Why are they so afraid? If Restore Britain isn't a threat, if Restore Britain isn't going to eat Reform UK whole in the fullness of time, why are they so afraid? Why are they actually having meltdowns on live TV? So I'm bringing up the next clip now. This is Alex Phillips of Talk TV, and this is what she had to say.
Messing about parlour games instead of making policy and doing what's right for the country. And this venal, vainglorious, vile game playing that goes on and on and on every single time, because there's a load of people running around feeling full of self-importance. Ha ha ha, that's a cunning plan. Oh, look at all the WhatsApp messages. Oh, which faction are you in? Oh, I'm in this faction, but I'm more than that faction. All of this nonsense. Running around thinking they're in like a dramatisation of the West Wing or Rome Burns.
Yeah.
And I'm fed up with it. I'm fed up with the lot of them. I'm angry as anything this morning, because all of these people who are doing it for their egos and their sense of self-importance and their 5 minutes of fame, or they're feeling powerful, ha, my little plot worked. All of those people who sit there getting a kick out of scheming, manipulating, gaslighting. Yeah, all of these people are the reason why this country is heading down a sinkhole at a rate of knots.
What I get, what I've seen from Reform UK in Makerfield, is that they have got substantial support, let's not lie. The activists, or some activists, are there, but it is dwarfed by what Restore Britain have mustered so quickly. And it leads to my feeling up in Runcorn and Helsby with a Reform UK MP. As I say, she's a marked improvement on the Labour backbenches that we've had recently or for the past 50 years in Runcorn, okay? It's a step in the right direction. Night and day difference between the enthusiasm and engagement from the grassroots of Reform UK, pre and post Rupert Lowe. Pre Rupert Lowe being ousted from Reform UK, there was a genuine enthusiasm, there was a genuine want and desire from the grassroots that we can make change and we can do it this way. That changed when Rupert Lowe got booted, and that's the reality. The footfall at the local meetings fell off a cliff. I'm going to end this here and I'll come back to full screen. The feeling from grassroots, from Reform UK up in Runcorn and Helsby, at the very least, was they weren't happy with the top-down edicts from management on how to spend money, what candidates to field in local elections. You need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do it this way, blah, blah, blah. All top-down from central office, with little to no say with the local branches and grassroots. This is the major bone of contention. That Restore Britain has changed and they're doing it the right way. Everything seems to be bottom up, which is the way local politics should be. People may not like the Restore Britain candidate for MP. People may vote for her, people may not vote for her. The point is, it's a local candidate picked by the local branch. That's the way that it should work, in my view. I mean, look what happened between the Tories. I think it was 2 councils now that said they were going to go into bed with the Greens to lock Reform UK out. That's because the legacy parties don't have cohesion. They don't have something to keep them all united under one banner anymore, like this Union Jack behind me. This is what we need to get behind to restore Britain. Now, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, give me a like and subscribe, do all of that great stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day.